Hello, hello. My name is Sterling Davis. I am the host of the Indy Investor Pod. I want to welcome our guest here, Mike Scott of Scott Estates. How you doing, Mike?
All is well. Thank you for having me, my guy. Appreciate you, brother. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
Absolutely, man. This is my first time hosting all-time guests with the Indy Investor Pod. I'm super pumped for Mike to be my first guest. He's one of my friends. He's somebody that inspires me, and I think he's going to be able to give a lot of great value to this podcast. In this podcast, my goal is to bring local individuals that are doing great things in our community and bring value to our investing community and our real estate community. So, Mike, man, tell us just the guest, like the audience, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Michael Scott or Mike Scott, whatever rolls off your tongue a little bit better. I'm born and raised here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Went to Northwest High School, which is a inner city public school. Shout out to the Space Pioneers, class of '04, my people. Grew up, just a normal kid, into nature, into that space. Started playing ball around 8 or 9. Took off in that. Went to Europe. Went to Kent State University for 4 years on a basketball scholarship. Ended up going out to Europe, Turkey to be exact, for my first year playing ball out there professionally. Stayed out there for about 6 years. Came home right around 28. Body was acting kind of crazy, and I was missing my people here at the crib. So I said, you know what? Let's just chalk it up. I enjoyed my 6 years in Europe. Came home and had to figure out how I could help people make the money I was making in Europe or more, and also control my time. And therefore, I started investing in renovating homes. Ended up getting my license after that, so I wouldn't have to pay a listing agent to list my homes. And from there, just things just started happening, man. People started calling me looking to buy homes. Started Scott Estates about 3 years later. That takes us up to about 2019 or so, something like that. And here we are here in the city. So, Scott Estates is a residential real estate brokerage. And this is what we do full time, help people buy and sell homes and also invest.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be able to see your journey, and I went to Pike, so I got to see Mike play, pretty often, and then I saw him at Kent State. He's been very modest about his basketball talents. At Green Kool-Aid, which that's what we called it at Pike, right? It was awesome. So let's talk about, when you started. How was life at an early age? Like, was you surrounded by people that were doing what you're doing now? Where did this passion, this entrepreneur spirit kind of derive from?
Yeah, sure. So I appreciate that question. I consider myself almost like unemployable. I don't really follow directions too well, be honest with you. I don't do well being told what to do, and found that out really quick early in life. My folks taught me to walk my own path, do as I desire, as long as I'm not hurting anybody and I'm being good to people. Do what makes you feel good, and create your own path. So that I think it came to me very, very early. But my mother would tell you that I came out the womb an entrepreneur. I came out the womb pretty much kind of doing my own thing. She didn't have to really worry about me. She was like, yo, he's cool. Whatever he's doing, he's safe. He's being responsible. And that was me as a kid. I was up at 6:30 a.m., took a shower, and I'm out playing with my friends, and they had to worry about me. So I think it's just been a part of me for a long time. And then coming up, I think seeing my parents work those 10, 12 hours a day on concrete floors and things of that nature, and not being able to really travel or understand investment. They did what they had to do so I can do what I'm doing now. And I just, I kind of feel like if the children are doing the same things the parents did, then there's something missing in those teachings. Yeah, 100. I think the children, hopefully, in an ideal situation, the children are able to eclipse what the parents have done. That's the whole point of recreating, is to have the children eclipse and do even better than the parents. So that's how it started. I wasn't really around real estate investing at all. Maybe I was, because we were renting for some period of time.
Right.
I guess I was, in a sense, around the investment, just on the other end of the spectrum that I'd rather not be on. And let's see. Yeah, I remember one time, you remember those commercials, man? They would be like, buy homes, no cash, no credit, right? Which they still
Right.
do now, but it was on a DVD. My stepfather, Avery, he gave me this, it was like this folder thing, and it had some DVDs in there, a little booklet. And it was that was like the first moment I remember seeing real estate. I looked at it, I probably popped it in for 2 seconds, heard this guy talking about some stuff I didn't care about, put it away. That was my first experience. And then just from there, just just exposure, seeing more people on
Yeah.
TV and things of that nature.
No, that's dope. I mean, I think I say a lot of what you're saying inside of myself, right? Like, it's some of the things that I grew up on was not necessarily a direct exposure, but I just knew it allowed me to know that I didn't like where I was, and it made me passionate about getting out of the environment that I was, right? So as you started, one of the things for me in basketball, I had to, in my career, pretty early because of my heart condition, right? A lot of times I see with athletes, that premonition of like, oh, I have to transition. Talk to me in the audience about like that pivoting moment, because I think there's a lot of people in this journey of investing and things like that has pivots. Let it be basketball, or hey, I'm going to go from my 9 to 5 to this. That is a struggle point, or they need some inspiration. Talk to us about like at that moment of realization that allowed you to take that step.
Yeah, no, great question. So I was a guy that, as I told you, coming up, I always wanted to create my own path. And what I saw a lot of guys doing, which I don't knock, is they will leave the basketball scene and go into coaching, which is nothing wrong with that. You get to be around kids a lot of times and help them develop their skills, whether it be on the court or just develop as young men or young women. I just didn't see that path for myself. I wanted to branch off, do something different. And I knew going into that coaching lane that, again, in that moment had to be employable. And I don't do well in
Right.
all directions. I'm probably saying that a couple of times through this. Now, I listen to my elders and those who love me, but when it comes to the 9 to 5 realm or that space, a lot of times are working for people many times who don't really care what you got going on in your world. So I listen very well to my elders and those who love me, actually have my best interests at heart. But other than that, man, I always had a chip on my shoulder in that regard. So anyway, I didn't want to go that path to coaching because I knew that I would likely have to work for somebody, and I didn't want to do that. And so again, that sent me into the realm of real estate. And one thing about real estate and people in general, right? If you've been working a 9 to 5 your whole life or things of that nature, I tell you all the time, in order to transition from that, you're going to have to go into overtime. And it's not overtime at the 9 to 5. Right? It's overtime that in order to break that rhythm, there's some things that you're going to do now from 5 p.m. to probably 10 p.m. You're going to be working 2 careers or 2 jobs for a period of time to make that transition a lot of times, especially if you don't have the greatest support system, or you don't have some well-off husband or wife who can just fund, this year, right? Not walking around in those situations. So it looks like double time. I know when I transitioned out of basketball, came home, there would be times that someone would ask me, hey, how many clients are you working with? And I'd say like 5 or 6, right? They would challenge me to write all those clients down and literally be like 18 to 20 clients. Crazy, right? But that's what I had to do to make sure that I was able to support myself and get it in, man. I can't even imagine now working with 17 to 20 clients. These are predominantly working with buyers. And any realtor or someone in this space understands that working with buying clients, as much as I absolutely love it, working with too many at any one time can be very difficult. Time consuming. I would get home and my head was hot. Like literally my brain was on fire. But yeah, so I would just say that you're gonna have to go overtime until you can scale it back down and zone in on what you really want to do.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, because I think what people assume is this all or nothing mindset, right? Like where God told me to quit my job and I'm going all or nothing in here. And I think a lot of stories that I hear, even my story, was I was working at Hot 96 as a sales rep, And then I was working on the side as a property manager, right? Like I had these rentals. I was like, if I can get to this amount of money, then I'll quit my job. And I kind of talked to my wife about it. I was like, hey, if I get to this amount of money in property management, I can quit, right? She was like, yeah, bet. I got
Yeah.
to that amount of money in 6 months. I was like, hey, listen, deuces, I'm out. They're like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I completely understand and get that motto, because that is a great hybrid model of being able to get your foot into the door of it. And I'm not even a person that believes that like it's an entrepreneur or bust, but I do think you have to have a vehicle in which you are making money outside of that 9 to 5 or whatever that is. So you're investing in something, right? So as we started moving towards, now we're out of basketball, we're really transitioning. What was like your first step, into that real estate investing world? Because I know now you have rentals, now you have Airbnbs, now you've bought all these properties, but where was that kind of like starting point for you?
Sure. So I ended up, like I said, I came home and I connected with the guy, and we actually sat down, we played some chess, and we were just talking about real estate. And he had said that he went to some conference and he met some people who help fund real estate deals, and with my creativity, I had a little bit of cash. I don't know, I had maybe 12, 15,000, something like that.
Right.
And you had to show X amount of dollars as well as have a property in order to make this deal with this company, right? And so I was like, all right, he didn't have the cash. And at the time, I didn't have the credit because I was playing ball in Europe. I wasn't worried about any credit. I was just playing ball, living my best life over there across the water. So he had credit. I had a little bit of cash or whatever. And in that way, we were able to apply for this loan. We had a property in mind, which was actually right next door to where he lived. So it just, we just kind of worked those angles, and that's really how it started. We brought it together, created the company name, and we found the owners of the property. They wanted to sell it to us. We had the purchase agreement in hand, reached out to that company that funds deals, and brought it together. And that was the first situation. And from there, we just learned. We just figured it out on the fly.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So now, like, talk about, where you are today, right? Like, because you have one of the largest, I don't even like quantifying it as like Black brokerages, because you have one of the largest brokerages in Indiana. You're a highly successful real estate investor. These are the reasons why, why you're here. But one of the main reasons why I wanted is because of Mike's heart. Mike has a heart to serve, right? So talk about how, as you started going through this process, you started identifying these opportunities to give back.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I know about this life is far less about what you receive and far more about what you get. And there's this interesting storyline. If you look at animals in the forest, whether it be chimpanzees or monkeys, but a lot of times they give love to each other, whether they're grooming each other's back or they're picking ticks off the back or whatever they're doing, but they're all trying to give gifts to each other. And what happens is it's reciprocated. One thing we understand about life is that what goes around comes around. Absolutely. And how it just works that way naturally. So just through time and just through just who I've tried to be, it's natural to me to love people and support people and give what I can, because I feel like we're all vessels to support one another. And so it's crazy because now who we've become in Scott Estates and our brand, I think is strongly built off who I've been to people from the start. So almost like, to be all the time, if I was selling vases, flower vases, I feel like people would buy vases because they knew that Mike Scott made good vases because he's a good guy. He's going to give you a nice product. If I want to sell blinds, people want to buy the blinds because, that dude Mike Scott's a solid guy, man. I rock with him. You know what I mean? He's a good person. And I know he's not going to send me any blinds that he stole. He's going to send me some blinds that are quality. They're going to actually do what he says they're going to do. And so that's been truly the foundation of our success in where we are today, is being good to people and supporting people, because this is not about ourselves. The best way to take care of ourselves is to take care of others. When you're down and you're feeling horrible, I tell people all the time, in those moments, find a way to do for others. You're not feeling good, you're upset, something happened, or whatever. Figure out a way to do something for someone else. Get
Yeah.
out of yourself, because
Mhm.
there's always someone doing worse than you. There's always someone
Yeah.
doing better than you. Just get outside of yourself and try to support the next person. And next thing you know, you forgot that for at least a moment, you can forget about your own issues and your own problems.
You're dropping some gems, man. You really
Yeah.
are. I appreciate it. So, because one of the things, man, I see early on with you, right? You're one of those people that have a high social media presence, right? You are very involved in social media. Talk about like as you started building Scott Estates, I feel like you have such a following. Talk about how what that kind of derived from. Was that intentional, or is that just who you are? What is that?
Yeah. So from a natural standpoint, it's naturally who I am. Uh, for as long as I can remember, probably starting in somewhere like high school. I think middle school, I used to get bullied and beat up and stuff time to time, so I wasn't very popular. But I think going into high school, I started to kind of get my confidence in who I was and just get my character together and just believe in who I am. And so during that time, um, uh, just develop it. Run back the question. I'm
No,
talking.
you good.
Yeah, run back the question. Run back
No,
the
no, it's just like I see the high presence of social media and these things. Like, is
yeah.
that natural or is that intentional?
I
Right?
got you. So yeah, it's a natural space. It's a natural space for me to talk to people. And I guess what I was getting at is that in high school, I started feeling like I had a natural gravitational pull where people would be drawn into my energy, for
Right.
whatever reason. And so that's a natural space. But then I started understanding the value in monetizing
Hmm.
who I am. I'm a
Right.
strong believer in monetizing who you've been. I've been working on my business since I was a child. Is what I realized again. In this space now, when I talk to people, they're like, "Yo, I remember you from elementary. You're always cool." Man, I was actually, and now they want to work with me and buy a home. I'm like, dang, I was actually working on my business when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it, right?
Yep.
And so when it comes to the social media space, it is naturally who I am, but I do also understand that I have to monetize that and put that energy out there because it does translate to commission who you are, depending on who you are.
Hmm.
One thing I say all the time, and I joke with people, is that uh, when I'm controversial, sales go up, which is
Man.
yeah, it's interesting. I think some people are kind of, maybe even yourself, some
Yep.
people around, they're like, man, Mike, how do you get away with saying these things
Right.
and you all are still doing well? It's because people are yearning for a genuine, straightforward person. They're
Yep.
yearning for that in a world full of all this fake energy, reality TV, all this stuff. You don't know what's what.
Mhm.
People yearn for someone who's going to keep it real with you. We don't have to agree. We can still be amazing and disagree on particular topics, whatever that may be.
Absolutely.
So I just found value in being myself, being genuine, and then also making sure I'm being respectful at the same time and not intentionally offending people. But just speaking my mind. I enjoy speaking my mind. And those who want to work with me, let's do it. Those who do not, I hope the best for you in your journey. But I'm not going to die, biting my tongue or not speaking, because we can't be controlled by money. I'm not controlled by money. I'm not controlled by
Right.
sales. I'm controlled by
Right.
commissions. It gives me the freedom to be who I want to be.
Yep.
Everybody can hate me, and I've created a space where everybody in this world can hate me. And I can still make money.
Yep. No, I
Give me
mean, I think that's one of the things I see with you, right? Is that you're genuine, and I agree. Like, I mean, I think that's why if you look at, I'm a sports guy, right? You look at ESPN, they made a lot of money being on the right or the left, and the people in the middle are normally not there for too long, right? We want poignant things, right? So I 100% agree with that. If you follow Mike online, then you know that he's posting constantly, and it's always once a week. I feel like it's a topic that is like, all right, this is going to get a response from someone, right? But I think that's kind of what I see has changed, right? Where I'm a second generation real estate broker, and my parents did not necessarily use these type of tactics to gain notoriety, right? They kind of focused on very transactional things, right?
Mhm.
Where I mean, early on, I start seeing different things that I've never seen done inside of marketing. And you were kind of the center point. I mean, from your movie theater things, like going to see The Lion King, you rented out a whole movie theater,
Yeah, fuck
which I think that's a big flex, right?
that.
But those are the things I feel like is so captivating, and people like, man, I want to be there. I want to be a part of Scott Estates. Like if I'm gonna, they might not even be in the market to buy a house, but they're like, when I'm in the market, do you know Mike Scott? I'm like, yeah, I know Mike Scott. Like you know, so
Yeah,
that's what makes your brand so dope.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank
Um, so as we start transitioning, you know, we started talking about your brokerage, but then you've done a lot of great things, and it kind of goes full circle. Let's talk about the idea of where you are today, the purchase of like your grandparents' home, and all that.
Yeah, so man, that's actually one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever reached in my life. I was actually at a restaurant the other day, and I was on the phone with one of my guys, and the guy next to me, I got the phone. The guy next to me is like, what's your name? I was like, Mike Scott. He's like, okay, yeah, I've heard about you or whatever, whatever. And they actually built container homes here in the city.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I was talking everything, and he was like, "Man, didn't you buy your grandma's house back or something?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, that was dope or whatever." Because what I did was I ran an ad on Facebook of the video. I made a video, and it's like a 4 or 5 minute video of that whole process because I bought the house. My family didn't know. I surprised everybody. And so it was just like this super amazing experience. It was crazy. Check it out if you get a chance. But it's a
That's so
beautiful
dope.
video of the surprise. At the time, my grandma was 89.
Mm.
And what's so amazing is we closed on it. She was 89. Her 90th was coming up. So we surprised her when I bought it. Boom, great. And then her 90th came around about 3 months later. And I went and picked her, said, Grandma, let's go eat. And I picked her up. And next thing you know, I drive her by the house, and our entire family is there at the house. So we got to celebrate her 90th birthday at the very home that she's our matriarch. She's the matriarch. She's currently 90 years old. Shout out to my
That's a
grandma, love her
blessing.
so much. She's alive, well, and kicking. But it was absolutely beautiful. Just one of the greatest accomplishments. And when I think about like my basketball career ending at 28, we have regrets, or we have sometimes moments like, man, I should have kept. Some of my guys are still playing in Europe and stuff like
Right.
that. But when I think about what I've been able to enjoy here at home and indulge in stuff like that, maybe it would have happened if I was in the league or in Europe. I don't know, but the odds are probably not. So
Right.
that's just something major. Man, it was phenomenal, and it really, I think it's gotten over 62,000 views on Facebook. And if you look down the comments on there, it's just so many people saying, "Hey, I wish I could have done this. This was beautiful. Oh, I know that house. I know that neighborhood." It was just super, super amazing, man. One of the greatest
That's
accomplishments of my life, for real.
that is really dope. I mean, I think sometimes when we get into this and we get in the weeds of this, we forget our why, right? Like we
Mhm.
forget some of these things that you kind of talked about your journey, and then something like that happens. And that is so incredible to be able to witness that. And it's the reason why I think real estate is such a great vehicle for wealth building, as well as just being able to do things like that, man.
Yeah, who? I mean, don't we all wish we like could
Oh,
be
absolutely.
back in our grandma's house?
Yep.
A part of
The,
us
the,
wants to,
the smell of it,
yeah,
the
the
memories
plastic,
of your
yeah,
cousins,
the
and
plastic on the couches, right? The
exactly.
the occasional mice that might run around this month
Right. Yep.
somewhere. A part of me wants to cuddle up in
Hmm.
the room, that I was in, because
Oh,
what I'm
yeah.
saying, maybe you want to be in that space, man. And it's so amazing. One little situation when I surprised our family, right? It was just my grandma and her children.
Mm.
And my sister lives in the neighborhood or whatever. So she
Hmm.
came over and she opened up a closet that still had some of the writings from when she was a kid.
Wow.
She wrote down a phone. She wrote down a picture of a phone, and it had the number spots on it. And she wrote down a phone number because one day I think someone had left them alone at the house, and they're like, "Hey, this is a phone number." So they wrote the phone number down, and it's still there to this day.
That's
Incredible, man.
that's
It's
wow.
incredible.
That's wow.
I give me chills thinking about it now,
Yeah,
dog.
like that's
Like,
that's
lost the house. I think I don't know. My grandma foreclosed on it. If she just sold it, I think it was foreclosed. I'm not exactly sure. 25 years ago, man.
wow.
25 years ago, bro. It's incredible. It's crazy.
Wow, that's the power of real estate, right? Like,
Yep.
and the power of being able to have a vision, because even you talk about like not being able to see it and not, man, I remember when I first got started an entrepreneur, and people was like, man, you got to get a real job, you got to get a real job, you got to get a real job, and then being able to have the understanding that like my ability to create and build is more important, because sometimes if Mike Scott didn't step into his path, if you didn't step into what you was supposed to do with your talents, then your blessing, your testimony would have hurt a lot of people if you wasn't here today, right? So it's so powerful that you're able to be and you had faith enough in yourself, and you had faith enough in your journey, and you was willing to endure, because now you are not only a testimony, but you are a blessing to all these people that you kind of impacted along the way.
I appreciate that, man. Just trying to walk the walk, man, and try to be good to people. That's literally my absolute goal is do right when people are looking and when they're not. I just want to be good to people, and you know, when I'm dead and gone, people say, "Yo, he was a good man, and he tried to do the right thing." He didn't do the right thing all the time, because none of us ever do, but he did his best to do the right thing day to day, or what he thought was right in that moment. It may work out to be right, it may not have, but at least he tried his very best to be a solid man.
Man, that's it, man. That's it. A few more questions before we leave. These kind of like some rapid fire, right? So, so there used to be a movie back in the day called Brown Sugar, and at the end of in the movie Brown Sugar, they always say like, "Man, when I fell in love with hip hop," right? So I like that analogy to always go back, like when you fell in love with real estate. Like at that moment, when was that moment that you realized like, man, I got a love affair with this thing called real estate, and it's got me? Talk about what that looked like when you realized that.
Yeah, so you know, I think even probably buying my first house from Mr. Pierre Peterson, who's like a father to me. And he sold me my first house on a land contract over around the 30th Illinois area here in Indianapolis. And he sold it to me just something super reasonable. And I ended up renovating the home, fixing it all the way up. And I stayed there for about a year or two or something like that. And after that, I ended up renting it out. Actually, no, I had family members stay in it for a year or two, and then I was able to rent it out, so on and so forth. Actually connected with Athocity. Shout out to you.
Oh yeah. Illinois.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you know, trying to keep it in here, you know. But anyway, at that same time that I had moved out there, I had moved into another home, which is known as Big Country here in the city. I had moved into there, and in this whole transition, being able to maneuver and do what I needed to do in different capacities. I could rent this one out, or I could stay in this one, I can have family stay in this one, or do this or do that, or I could Airbnb. Having all these options at that time and everyone has somewhere to lay their head and be comfortable, it's probably the moment I started seeing how valuable real estate is, because you can monetize so many levels of it, whether it's property management, whether it's selling, buying, wholesaling, Airbnb, renting, and a ton of other real estate hacks that are out there. But just being able to maneuver and have options, man, is when I started like, yo, this is it. This is the move for sure.
Yeah. What are you know, you kind of are an expert guru. What are some of the areas around town that you're just passionate about, that you, if you were to buy or help people buy, that you're like, man, keep an eye out for this?
Yeah, sure. Hallville. Yeah, Hallville. And I don't know if I'm a guru or an expert quite yet. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll claim that, but I think not claiming it keeps me hungry, keeps me knowing that I have to continue to learn more. But that's a sidebar.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Hallville. I love the Hallville area, which is actually where my grandmother's house is. I ended up being blessed enough to purchase the home across the street because the gentleman, his family grew up with my family. He saw me working on my grandmother's house after I purchased it. His mother's house was vacant. He wasn't gonna do anything with it. He ended up selling it to me. So now, directly across the street, I own the properties, and my nephews actually stay in my grandmother's house now. So it's such a full circle space, and one of his friends stays across the street. You know what I mean? So it's full circle. But yeah, Hallville area, to answer your question more specifically, I love that area. It's a lot of small single family homes. They're easier renovations because they're typically, you know, there's some 2 stories over there. It's a mixture, but they had nice yards. The area is a little bit more cleaned up than it was when we were coming up. You know, it's a lot of one of the, you know, toughest neighborhoods, but now it's just cleaning up. You don't really get too much going on over there. It's going on. I like it. I like it. Maybe because I'm familiar with the area and that's where I'm at, but I think it's an investment area for investors.
No, I love that area. I think that area kind of has a lot of reasons why the growth is happening, right? I mean, we always know Long's Bakery. Like, I mean, Long's been there for years and they still taking cash and got a police officer out front, right? Like,
I want to put an ATM in there, man. I'll probably make a freaking killing.
Oh, man. You'll make a killing.
What's up?
So, no, I love that area. That's great advice. So, Mike, tell people if they were going to reach out to you, how they can reach you.
Sure. So you can reach me in a couple of different ways. I'm on LinkedIn as Mike Scott, also Facebook, Mike Scott. We have a business page on Facebook, Scott Estates. If you want to find it more specifically, is @Scott Estates 01 on Facebook. On Instagram, it's my page is Mike Scott _real estate. Again, that's Mike Scott _real estate. Our IG page is Scott __ estates is our business page. Phone number, I don't know if I'll get that out on here. Is that cool?
Right.
That's environmental.
I mean,
it might reach too many people. I don't know. Hey, whatever, it's all good. Call me. My number's out there anyway. 317-730-6860. If I get stalkers, I will change my number. But yeah, Mike at scottestates.net. Email me. You know, we're all over the space. I'm accessible, maybe sometimes too accessible.
Right. Yeah, no, for real. Now, I mean, I really want to thank you, brother, for coming on the show today. My first guest ever. I thank you so much. My name is Sterling Davis. I am the host of Indy Investor Pod. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook, Sterling M. Davis Sr. I want to thank you all for joining us. Please subscribe to the YouTube page. See you guys soon.
Cool. Real quick.
Yep.
Before we get off, a couple of things I wanted to share with people. This is the first and last book that I read when I got into my real estate journey. All right, How to Be a Real Estate Investor by Phil Pustiowski. He also has a YouTube page. The first and last book I read, well, not the last book, but jump in. You know what I mean? Jump into real estate, learn it, just get into it. Another thing is don't sell your grandma's house.
Right.
You know, don't sell your grandma's house. If you're trying to figure out how to keep it, how to hold on to it, cool. Give me a shout. I can give you some resources in that regard. Reach out. People know stuff. Ask, talk, type. Ask those questions. Don't make quick decisions, but try to exhaust all your resources before you do sell homes. If you do have to sell the house for whatever reason, that's fine. But just make sure you've exhausted all resources and you see all your options, because there are ways for you to keep your grandma's house.
That is such an important thing that you say, because what happens is grandma dies. Grandma doesn't necessarily have a plan for the house. It goes to the siblings. Siblings let it sit because they don't really have a plan, but they got to pay taxes. And then at that point, they lose the house or they sell the property. And then, you know, it becomes this cycle. So I agree 100%. Like, and we talk about buying the block. Well, let's keep the assets that we had before we started buying the block, right? So that's so important to this real estate journey. is that aspect. So once again, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube and all our Facebook and all that stuff as well. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.